Morning comes softly over the Serengeti. The grass shines with dew, the air is cool, and somewhere in the distance, a herd of wildebeest starts to move. Here, every day can bring a quiet moment or a sudden burst of action. That is part of what makes this place so special. In this episode, we'll follow a huge cast of animals across the African savanna, from the steady rhinoceros to gazelles. Each one plays a part in the life of the plains. Some graze, some hunt, some watch and wait. So, settle in and come walk the savanna with us. And if you're watching from home, say hello in the comments. We'd love to hear where you're joining us from. The first thing you notice is the shape of the land giving way. Tall grass parts in front of a moving wall of grey. The air feels dry and hot, and then the ground seems to tremble a little under heavy steps. Nothing about this animal is rushed. It moves like it has all the time in the world, and that calm can be a little deceptive. This is the rhinoceros, one of the most powerful animals on the Serengeti Plains and in parts of the African savanna. It spends its days among open grassland, thorny scrub, and patches of shade, where it can feed and rest with room to move. And even though it looks tough enough to shrug off anything, it still has to be careful around people, drought, and the pressures that come with a shrinking world. Up close, a rhino is all armor and bulk. Its body is barrel-shaped, with thick skin folded in heavy lines, almost like old leather. The skin is often grey, but it can look brownish after wallowing in mud and dust. That mud is not just for show. It helps cool the animal and keeps biting insects down. The head is huge, carried low, and the mouth is built for grazing, not grabbing. A rhino's ears are sharp and always turning, like little satellite dishes. Its eyes are smaller than you might expect, which is one reason it relies so much on hearing and smell. Of course, the horn draws your attention right away. Depending on the species, there may be one horn or two, and it is made of keratin, the same basic material found in hair and nails. It is not a weapon in the movie sense. It is more like a tool. A rhino uses its horn when it feels threatened, when it clears a path, and sometimes when it tests what is in front of it. Even standing still, it has a presence that is hard to ignore. Most of the day, a rhino is doing something ordinary, eating. It grazes on grasses, pulling them close to the ground with its wide lips. That mouth is well suited to cropping short, tough grass, and the animal can work through a patch with steady patience. In the cooler hours, especially early in the morning and later in the day, it may wander farther to find fresh feeding spots. During the hotter part of the day, it often rests in shade or stands in mud to stay cool. You will sometimes see one moving with surprising speed when it needs to. A rhino may look slow and heavy, but if it feels threatened, it can charge fast. That is one reason even large animals give it space. Elephants may pass nearby, buffalo may crowd a water source, and lions may watch from a distance, but a healthy adult rhino is not easy to push around. It usually chooses its own route and keeps to its own business. Rhinoceroses are mostly solitary animals. That means they spend a lot of time alone, unlike zebras or buffalo. that gather in larger groups. Adult rhinos usually come together only to mate, and mothers stay with their calves for a long time. A calf stays close to its mother, learning where to feed, where to drink, and how to read danger in the landscape. That bond is strong. A mother rhino is careful and alert, and she will defend her young with serious force if needed. Rhinos communicate in simple but important ways. They leave scent marks, make grunts and snorts, and use body posture to signal whether they want space or are willing to tolerate another rhino nearby. Two adults may share the same general area if food and water are good, but they often keep a respectful distance. In a place like the savannah, that solitary habit makes sense. There is room to roam, but there is also always something to avoid. A rhino does not need a crowd. It needs grass, water, and a safe place to raise its calf. Rhinos matter because they help shape the land around them. By grazing, they trim grass and open up space that can be used by other animals. Their movement also helps create trails through thick vegetation. In that way, they are part of the everyday work of the savannah. But rhinos have faced a hard road. Poaching for horn and loss of habitat have caused serious declines in many places. Some populations are protected and closely watched, and that protection matters. Rangers, conservation teams, and local communities all play a role in giving rhinos a better chance. When people make room for them, these animals can still do what they have always done: move quietly across the grass, shaping the plains, one heavy step at a time. And there is something deeply moving about that. A rhino does not need to be flashy to hold your attention. It simply stands there, solid and alive, and reminds you how much strength there is in patience. The first thing you notice is the smell. Warm water, wet mud, and the green bite of crushed reeds drift across the bank. Then there's the sound, a low snort, a splash, and the heavy silence that follows. Out in the shallows, something huge is half hidden by the river haze, calm on the surface and stubborn as a stone. This is the hippo, one of the great animals of the African savanna. It lives in rivers, pools, and lake edges, where the water stays deep enough to keep its thick skin cool. A hippo spends much of the day in the water, but at night it comes ashore to feed, often far from the river. A hippo looks built like a tank, but there's more going on here than brute size. Its body is barrel-shaped, with a broad mouth, tiny ears, and eyes set high on the head, so it can watch the world while most of it stays underwater. That head is enormous, and when it opens its mouth, it can look almost comical, until you notice the long teeth and the power behind the jaw. The skin is thick and gray-brown, with folds around the neck and shoulders, and it often looks shiny when wet. Up close, the face is surprisingly expressive. A twitch of the ears, a blink, a yawn. It can all say a lot. Hippos spend the hottest hours resting in water, and they are built for that life. The sun can be brutal out here, and the water acts like a shield. It keeps them cool and protects their skin. When evening comes, they leave the river and head into the grass to graze. They feed mostly on short grasses, cropping them with those wide lips and strong teeth. They don't chew plants like a cow does. They grab and tear, then move on. A hippo can cover a surprising distance overnight, following familiar paths from water to feeding ground and back again. Those trails can be worn deep into the earth, like old footpaths in a farm field. Even though they seem slow, hippos are not harmless. On land, they can move fast when they need to, and in the water, they are quick, powerful, and very territorial. If another hippo drifts too close, there can be loud yawns, jaw claps, and sudden charging. The water may look peaceful from a distance, but a hippo colony is always keeping track of space, rank, and trespassers. Mothers stay close to their calves, and the young ride low in the water beside them, sometimes resting on a mother's back for a moment before slipping down again. Hippos also play a quiet but important role in these rivers and pools. As they feed on land and rest in water, they move nutrients between both places. Their grazing keeps some grasslands trimmed, and their waste helps feed fish and other water life downstream. But they need healthy rivers to survive. When water holes dry up, or when land is crowded and rivers are damaged, hippos suffer. In some places, they face pressure from habitat loss and conflict with people. Protected areas and careful water management matter a lot here. And where those protections hold, hippos can still do what they have always done: drift by day, graze by night, and keep these river edges alive with movement. There's something unforgettable about a hippo just before sunset, when the last light catches its wet skin, and the whole river seems to hold its breath. It may spend much of life half hidden, but it leaves a big mark on the savannah all the same. The grass changes first. One patch is still and sunlit, while another seems to tremble for no clear reason. Then you notice the reason moving low to the ground, all power and patience, with the whole savannah seeming to hold its breath. This is the cheetah, a hunter of open country, at home on the Serengeti Plains and in other grassy parts of East Africa. It is built for speed, and more than that, for getting a meal before bigger, stronger animals can steal it away. The cheetah is the fastest land animal, but speed alone is only part of the story. From a distance, a cheetah can look almost fragile. Up close, every line in its body says something different. The frame is slim and light, with long legs and a deep chest. The head is small, rounded and neat, and the eyes look framed by dark marks that run like tear tracks from the inner corners down the face. Those marks help cut the glare of bright sunlight, which matters when you spend your life staring across open ground. The coat is covered in black spots on a warm gold background. It is a simple pattern, but it works well in grass and shadow. The tail is long and steady, like a balancing pole. When a cheetah runs, that tail swings like a rudder, helping it turn fast without sliding out of control. Even standing still, the animal looks ready to move in an instant. Cheetahs hunt by sight, not smell. They use the open land as their advantage. In the cool parts of the day, often early in the morning or later in the afternoon, they walk quietly and scan for gazelles or young antelope. Once they choose a target, they creep closer and closer, freezing when the prey looks up. Then comes the burst. It is short, fierce, and all business. The cheetah does not chase forever. It cannot. Its body is made for a quick, explosive run, not a long race. That means hunting has to be smart. A cheetah picks a weaker, smaller, or more isolated animal if it can. It uses cover when there is any. A dip in the grass, a mound of earth, even a few scattered bushes can help hide its approach. When the chase begins, the cheetah leans into turns with its claws, acting more like running spikes than the fixed claws of many other cats. After the run, it needs to stop, breathe hard, and recover before doing anything else. And that is where life gets hard for a cheetah. It may make a kill, only to lose it to lions, hyenas, or even jackals. On the savannah, speed gets the meal on the ground, but it does not always keep that meal safe. So cheetahs often hunt in quieter places and try to eat quickly. Mothers also teach their cubs by leading them through these same lessons, one careful step at a time. Family life is usually built around the mother. Female cheetahs raise their cubs alone. She hides them in thick grass or under low cover and moves them often because danger comes from many directions. Tiny cubs are vulnerable to lions, hyenas, and other threats. As they grow, the mother brings them along on hunts and lets them watch, practice, fail, and try again. It takes time for a young cheetah to learn how to move like smoke across the grass. Male cheetahs often live differently. Brothers sometimes stay together in small coalitions, which can help them hold territory and face rivals. They may travel side by side, resting in the shade, and then rising together when the heat eases. Even so, cheetahs are not animals that fill the landscape with noise. They are not loud most of the time. They rely on posture, scent, and close contact, with soft chirps and purrs used between mothers and cubs or among close companions. Cheetahs matter because they help keep herbivore numbers in check, especially among smaller, fast-moving grazers like gazelles. They also remind us how much the open plains depend on room to run. When grasslands are broken up by fences, roads, farms, and too much human pressure, cheetahs lose the space they need. They can also struggle when stronger predators crowd them out. Conservation work has helped in many places, but cheetahs still face a tough future. Protecting open habitat gives them a fairer chance. There is something almost quiet about the cheetah, even when it is doing one of the most dramatic things on Earth. Maybe that is why people remember it so easily. It carries speed with grace. And in the open light of the savannah, that is its own kind of magic. There's a certain kind of silence that settles over the savannah just before something moves. The grass sways, a bird calls from far off, and then you notice a low shape near the shrubs, all stillness and caution. That is often where the jackal makes its living. Small enough to slip through the day unnoticed, smart enough to stay one step ahead of danger, It watches the big animals and waits for a chance. Jackals live across much of Africa, including the grasslands and open woodlands where rhinos, lions, zebras, and gazelles all cross paths. In places like the Serengeti, they are never far from action. They are quick, alert, and very good at making the most of whatever the land offers. At first glance, a jackal can seem like a small, lean dog with a sharper edge. Its body is slim, its legs are built for quick movement, and its ears stand up like little antennae, always listening. The coat is usually a mix of grey, tan, and black, which helps it blend into dry grass and dusty ground. Some jackals have a rusty or golden look on the face and shoulders, especially in good light. That sandy coloring is not just pretty, it helps the animal disappear in plain sight. A jackal can stand motionless beside a clump of grass and seem to vanish. The tail is long and bushy, often tipped darker, and it helps balance those quick turns and sudden bursts of speed. The muzzle is narrow, the eyes bright and watchful. Everything about this animal suggests alertness. Jackals do not carry themselves like the biggest hunters on the plains. They move with a light, easy trot, head low, nose working constantly. They are always reading the ground, a scent trail, a rustle in the grass, the sound of vultures overhead. The jackal pays attention to all of it. That sharp nose is one of its best tools, helping it find insects, eggs, small mammals, birds, and scraps left behind by larger predators. And that is one reason jackals do so well around other animals. They are opportunists. They hunt small prey when they can, but they also feed on carrion, fallen fruit, and whatever else turns up. They may follow larger hunters at a cautious distance, looking for leftovers without getting too close. It is a risky habit because lions and hyenas do not like competitors. So a jackal learns fast. Hurry when you can. Freeze when you must. Leave quickly if the wrong animal lifts its head. Sometimes people think of jackals as sneaky, but careful is the better word. In a place full of giants, caution is a survival skill. They often hunt alone or in pairs, moving through the grass with tiny, precise steps. When they spot a grasshopper, a mouse, or a bird nest, they can pounce in a flash. Their speed is short and sharp, rather than long and powerful. They are not built for a chase across open country. They are built for quick decisions. Jackals also have a strong family side. A pair often stays together for a long time, and both parents may help raise the pups. The den is usually tucked away in a hidden place, like a burrow, rocky hollow, or thick cover. The pups stay close at first, learning the smell of the land and the voices of their parents. You may hear jackals calling at night with high, yipping sounds that travel far across the plains. It can sound lonely, but it is really a way of keeping in touch. Those calls matter. Jackals use their voices to stay connected, warn each other, and defend a territory. They are territorial animals, and a pair will often keep other jackals at a distance. In the open savanna, space matters, food matters. A safe den matters even more. And because they are so alert, jackals often notice trouble before many other small animals do. They become part of the early warning system of the grasslands, they also matter to the whole ecosystem in quiet ways. By eating rodents and insects, jackals help keep those populations in check. By cleaning up carcasses, they help recycle nutrients back into the land. Nothing they do is flashy, but a landscape needs animals like this. If jackals were gone, the small things they eat would have fewer checks on their numbers, and the scavenging work would fall more heavily on other species. On a place like the Serengeti, every roll counts. Jackals have managed to hold on better than some larger African animals, partly because they are flexible and able to live in many places. Still, they face the same pressures that touch so much of the savanna: habitat loss, shrinking wild spaces, and conflict with people when they come near livestock. Protected lands and wildlife corridors help give them room to keep doing what they do best: slipping through the edges, surviving on wit and timing. In the end, the jackal reminds us that the savanna belongs not only to the biggest animals, but also to the quick thinkers, the listeners, the ones who know how to make a living in the margins. And if you watch long enough, you may find that some of the smartest lives on the plains are also the quietest. There's a sound that can roll across the grass before you ever see the animal making it. A rough, rising whoop. Then another one answers from farther off. In the cool light near a watering hole, that noise can make even the whole landscape seem on edge. It belongs to the hyena, one of the savanna's smartest scavengers and a hunter in its own right. Hyenas live across much of sub-Saharan Africa, including the Serengeti. They are built for hard country, where food can be hard to find and every meal must be earned. And while they are often misunderstood, their lives are full of skill, teamwork, and constant alertness. A hyena's first impression is usually the wrong one. People think of it as a lopsided, ugly animal that just sneaks in after others are done. But look closer, and you see a powerful body shaped for endurance, not speed alone. Its front shoulders sit high, giving the back line a sloping look. That stance is not a flaw. It helps the hyena move powerfully through rough ground and stay steady while wrestling food away from larger rivals. The coat is usually sandy gray or brown with dark spots or markings. The fur looks shaggy, almost messy, like it was brushed the wrong way by the wind. The head is broad, with strong jaws and a face that seems to be always thinking. Those jaws are famous for a reason. A spotted hyena can crush bones that many other animals leave behind. That lets it get every bit of value from a carcass, even when a meal has already been picked over. And then there is the sound. Hyenas do not only laugh. They grunt, growl, whine, and whoop. Their calls carry far over open land. In the dark, those sounds help clan members stay in touch. In the day, they can warn rivals to keep their distance. Hyenas spend a lot of time on the move. They travel alone or with others, depending on the situation, and they cover long distances to find food. They may follow vultures, watch for lions, or simply trot through the grass with noses low, reading the land for fresh clues. They are excellent opportunists. A hyena will eat carrion, but it will also hunt. In some places, especially in open country, spotted hyenas work together to bring down animals such as wildebeest, zebra, or antelope. That teamwork matters. One hyena is determined. A group of them can be very effective. Their days are shaped by competition. They may be bold around a carcass, but they are never careless. Lions can drive them off. So can a large buffalo if it is angry enough, or an elephant if a clan gets too close. A hyena watches body language closely. It is always measuring risk. Every meal is a small strategy session. Every step says, is this worth it? Hyenas live in social groups called clans, and this is one of the most interesting things about them. Clan life is not casual. These animals know one another well. They recognize voices, remember ranks, and defend their place in the group. In spotted hyenas, females are larger and hold the higher positions. Mothers invest a lot of energy in their cubs, and those cubs are born with their eyes open, ready to start learning early. They stay close to the den at first, where the young can be safe, while adults range out across the plains. Communication is constant. A hyena's call can mean many things. It can gather allies, warn others, or signal excitement around food. Cubs learn by watching the older animals and by testing their own place in the clan. There is a strong social order, but there is also plenty of messy, noisy interaction. If you have ever watched a family argument at a holiday table, you have a rough idea of the energy. Hyenas matter more than many people realize. They clean up carcasses, which helps limit the spread of disease. They also hunt enough to help keep grazing animals from becoming too crowded in one place. In that way, they are part of the savannah's cleanup crew and its pressure team. If hyenas disappeared, the whole system would feel it. More carcasses would linger, and other animals would lose one of their toughest competitors. They are not under the same pressure everywhere, but like so many animals in Africa, they still need room to roam. Fencing, habitat loss, and conflict with livestock owners can all cause trouble. The good news is that protected lands like the Serengeti still give hyenas a fighting chance. When you hear that eerie whoop carry over the grass, you are hearing more than a laugh. You are hearing a family keeping track of itself in a hard, beautiful place. The heat hangs over the grass like a blanket, and even the insects seem to hush for a moment. Then a low, rough sound rolls out of the scrub, followed by the soft hiss of dry stalks brushing against big paws. Somewhere nearby, the whole savannah seems to straighten up and pay attention. This is the lion, one of the most familiar hunters in Serengeti country and across much of eastern and southern Africa. Lions live where there is open ground, enough prey, and enough cover to lie low when they need to. And while they are famous for their power, what stands out most is how much of their day is spent waiting, watching, and choosing the right moment. A lion's first impression is all strength. The head is broad, the shoulders are heavy, the body is built like a machine, made for short bursts. not long chases. A male's mane can make him look even bigger, like a dark frame around the face, while females are usually sleeker and less showy, but every bit as capable. Their coat blends with dry grass and dust so well that at a glance, they almost disappear. That sandy gold color is perfect for the savanna. Up close, the face is full of fine detail, pale whiskers, amber eyes, and ears that swivel at the smallest sound. Their paws are huge and soft-looking, but those feet can move with surprising quiet. A lion often seems to appear out of nowhere, as if the grass has simply decided to become a cat. Even when it is resting, there is a kind of power in the way it lies there, head up, taking in everything around it. Lions spend a good deal of time saving energy. That may sound lazy, but it is smart. A hunt takes work, and it can fail. So lions rest in shade during the hottest part of the day, then become more active as the light softens. They hunt mostly in the cooler hours of dawn and dusk, when many prey animals are moving around and the air is easier to breathe. In open country like the Serengeti, they often use grass, folds in the ground, or scattered shrubs to hide their approach. They do not usually run far. Instead, they creep closer and then rush in with a short burst of speed. Their menu includes animals such as zebra, buffalo, gazelle, and sometimes young giraffe or other vulnerable prey. But a hunt is not guaranteed. That is one reason lions are patient. They may spend a long time lying in the grass, ears twitching, eyes fixed on a herd in the distance. They also take advantage of opportunities when animals are distracted, separated, or weakened. If a storm has passed and the ground is muddy, or if prey is gathered tightly at a waterhole, lions may try to use the crowd and confusion to their advantage. Even when they are hunting, lions are social in a way that many big cats are not. They live in groups called prides, usually made up of related females. They're young, and a small number of males that help defend the territory. The pride is really a family with a hard life. Females do most of the hunting, and they also do most of the work of raising cubs. Cubs are born hidden and helpless at first, and the adults keep a close eye on them. You can see a tender side here that people do not always expect. Lions rub heads, nuzzle, and greet each other with soft contact. They also communicate with rumbles, grunts, growls, and those deep roars that can carry for a long distance across the night. A lion's roar does more than sound dramatic. It helps keep the pride together and warns other lions to stay away. In a landscape as wide as this one, sound matters. So does cooperation. A pride can hold territory, protect young, and bring down larger prey more successfully than a lone cat could manage. Still, there is no guarantee of safety. Hyenas may try to steal a meal. Buffalo can fight back hard, and a powerful male lion may be challenged by another. Life here is full of pressure, even for the ruler of the grassland. Lions matter because they help keep prey animals moving and healthy. They often take the weak, old, or sick, which can help keep herds from becoming too crowded in one place. That has effects all through the landscape. Their presence also shapes the behavior of other animals, from wary zebras to the scavengers that follow after a kill. But lions face real trouble from habitat loss, fewer wild prey animals, and conflict with people when livestock are at risk. The good news is that protected parks, wildlife corridors, and local conservation work can make a real difference. Where people give lions room, they can still do what they have done for a very long time. There is something unforgettable about hearing a lion at dusk and knowing the day is not over yet. In that sound, the savannah feels ancient, alert, and alive. By midday, the waterhole can feel like the center of the whole savannah. The ground around it is trampled hard and dark, slick with mud, where hooves and feet keep coming back. Flies hum over the shallows. Birds call from the low branches nearby. Even when the sun is hot, every animal knows this is the place to check, drink, and be careful. Here, many of the animals in this episode cross paths. Giraffes come to drink with their legs spread wide. Zebras and buffalo crowd the edges. Gazelles slip in fast and nervous. Hippos rest in the deeper water, while crocodiles lie so still they almost vanish. Lions, hyenas, and wild dogs often watch from a distance. It is one of the busiest places in the whole Serengeti, and one of the most dangerous too. For a rhino, a waterhole is not just a drink stop. It is a place to cool off, roll in mud, and keep an eye on everything around it. Acacia country has a look of its own. The trees are scattered wide apart, each one throwing a lacy patch of shade over the grass. In the morning, the air can feel cool and still. By afternoon, the sun presses down hard, and even the birds seem to save their energy. This is where many of the animals in this episode come and go: rhinoceros, elephant, lion, cheetah, giraffe, zebra, buffalo, hyena, warthog, wild dog, ostrich, gazelle, hippo, crocodile, jackal, and vulture. It is a place of open sight lines and quick decisions. One wrong step, and everyone knows it. Under the hot African sun, the grass can look calm from a distance, but get closer, and you start to notice how much is happening all at once. Heads come up, ears flick. A few steps here, a pause there. And in that sea of moving grass, one slim shape stands out by grace alone. The gazelle lives across the savannas of East Africa, including places like the Serengeti. It is one of the animals that keeps the whole grassland moving. Fast legs, sharp senses, and quick turns help it survive where danger can appear in an instant. At first glance, a gazelle seems almost too light for this rugged country, but that light build is the whole idea. Long legs carry it over open ground with ease. A narrow face, large eyes, and alert ears give it a look of constant attention. Even when it seemed relaxed, it is listening, watching, and ready. Many gazelles have a sandy coat that blends in with dry grass. Some also show darker markings along the sides or a bold stripe on the face. The shape is elegant, almost springy, as if the animal were made to launch into motion at any moment. When a gazelle runs, the movement is different from the heavy charge of a buffalo or the lumbering stride of a rhino. It feels almost effortless, like the animal is skipping over the ground instead of crossing it. And then there are those horns. In many gazelles, both males and females may have them, though the males usually have the more impressive set. They are slim and curved, not built for digging or smashing through brush, but for defense and display. A male will often stand tall with his head raised, showing off those horns as much as using them. Most of the day, a gazelle is busy eating. It grazes on fresh grass and also nibbles on leaves when it can find them. Like many savanna animals, it does best when there is room to move and plenty of open sightlines. That open country is important. A gazelle survives by spotting trouble early. Lions, cheetahs, wild dogs, hyenas, jackals, and even a sudden burst of panic from another animal can all send it bounding away in a flash. When danger shows up, the gazelle does not rely on strength. It relies on timing. It may freeze for a moment, then spring away in quick bouncing leaps. Those sharp turns can make it harder for a predator to lock on. A cheetah can outrun it in a straight line, but the gazelle knows the grassland well enough to twist and dodge. It is a gamble every time, and the outcome is never certain. Gazelles often gather in loose groups, which gives them more eyes and ears scanning the land. That helps a great deal in open country. One animal might notice a lion crouching in the grass. Another might catch the shape of a jackal shifting near the edge of the herd. When one gazelle bolts, the others usually react fast. In the savannah, panic can spread like a match strike. Family life is careful work here. Females often leave the group for a while when it is time to give birth, then hide the young in grass or low cover. A newborn has to be still and quiet at first. That is the safest choice. After that, the little one must grow fast, because the grassland gives mercy to no one. Soon enough, the calf is up and moving, learning the pattern of its mother's steps and the rhythm of the herd. You can almost think of the gazelle as one of the savanna's early warning systems. It helps keep predators busy, and in doing so, it supports the larger food web. Lions, cheetahs, wild dogs, and others depend on animals like this for survival. If gazelles were to vanish from these plains, the whole hunting scene would shift, and the balance of life out here would change with it. That is why healthy grasslands matter so much. Gazelles need space, clean water, and safe places to raise young. Protected parks and good wildlife management give them a fighting chance, especially where human settlement and farming keep spreading. When rangers and local communities work together, open country can still stay open. There is something moving about watching such a small, light animal hold its own in a place full of teeth and claws. The gazelle does not need to be the biggest creature on the plains to matter. It just needs room, speed, and one more breath before the next leap. In the early light, The grass seems to move before the animals do. A breeze slides across the plain, and then a striped shape steps out, quiet as a shadow. There is something almost playful about those bold black and white lines, as if the savanna itself decided to paint a living path. This is the zebra, one of the most familiar sights on the Serengeti and across the grasslands of eastern and southern Africa. Zebras are famous for living in groups and for always seeming alert, even while they graze. They depend on open country where they can spot danger quickly and run when they must. Up close, a zebra is built for life in the open. Its coat is not just handsome, it is also a strong calling card. No two stripe patterns are exactly alike, and each animal wears its own version. The stripes run down the neck, body, and legs like narrow bars on a fence. The mane stands upright along the back of the neck, short and bristly, and the tail ends in a dark tuft. Those ears are large and always working, turning toward every sound in the grass. A zebra's body is sturdy and compact, with long legs made for speed and endurance. It is a horse relative, but there is nothing plain about it. The black and white pattern makes it stand out to us, yet out on the plains, it blends surprisingly well with moving grass, shifting light, and the confusion of a whole herd. When a group runs together, those stripes can make it harder for a predator to pick out one animal at a glance. That may not look graceful to us, but it works. Zebras spend most of their day grazing. They clip short grasses with strong teeth, moving slowly while they feed, and then lifting their heads again and again to check the horizon. They need a lot of water, so they often stay near places where they can drink regularly. In dry times, they will travel farther to find fresh grass and water, and that movement matters because it helps keep the plains connected from one area to another. They are not picky eaters in the way some animals are, but they do best where there is plenty of grass. That is why you often see them in open country rather than deep brush. They prefer to live with space around them. Space means sight lines, and sight lines mean survival. If danger appears, zebras do not waste time. They bunch up, turn as one, and sprint with a sudden burst that can surprise even a determined hunter. Their bodies are made for that kind of escape. Fast feet, strong lungs, and a sharp sense of when to move. On the Serengeti, that quickness is one reason they can share the plains with lions, hyenas, and wild dogs and still make it through many days. Zebras are highly social animals, and that is one of their biggest strengths. They live in groups, often with a lead stallion, several mares, and young foals. These family groups can join with other zebra groups to make larger herds, especially when grazing areas are rich. There is safety in numbers, but there is also a kind of order to it. Adults stay close to the young, and mothers are very protective of their foals. Foals can stand and run soon after birth, which is essential in a place where a baby cannot afford to be helpless for long. Zebras talk to one another with ear positions, snorts, barks, and a range of calls that carry across the grass. A head held high, a twitch of the ears, a sudden shift in the herd. These small signs tell others what to do next. They also groom one another, especially around the neck and shoulders, using their teeth to reach itchy spots. It is a small thing, but it helps keep bonds strong. And those bonds matter when lions crouch in the grass or when a dry season stretches on, and every animal in the area feels the pressure. Zebras also play an important part in the larger life of the savanna. As grazers, they help shape the grasslands by feeding on certain plants and keeping the grasses cropped. That affects what grows back and where other animals can feed. Their movements can also open the way for other grazers that prefer shorter grass. In that sense, zebras are not just passing through the landscape, they help maintain it. People have protected many zebra habitats through national parks and reserves, which has given these herds a better chance in places where open land is still left alone. But they still face pressure from growing farms, fences, and dry spells that can make water harder to find. The good news is that where the plains are protected, zebras can still move, feed, and raise their young the way they always have. There is something steadying about watching a zebra herd at work. They graze, glance up, and move on, carried by old habits that fit the grassland so well. In a place full of danger, they bring a kind of calm strength. The smell changes near the riverbank. Damp mud, wet reeds, and the sour edge of old water hang in the air. Then you hear it, a low rumble from the shallows, a splash, and the soft slide of a heavy body moving just under the surface. This is where the Nile crocodile lives, in the rivers, pools, and marshy edges that cut through the savanna. It waits with the patience of a stone. It may look still, but it is always alert. And when a rhinoceros comes down to drink, that quiet patience suddenly matters. A crocodile is built for this kind of life. The body is long and armored, covered in thick scales that look almost like a suit of rough, dark armor. The back rises in ridges, and the tail is broad and powerful, made for a fast burst in the water. The head is heavy and flat, with eyes and nostrils set high so it can watch the world, while most of it stays hidden. Those yellowish eyes can seem almost ancient. The mouth is full of sharp teeth, but most of the time it stays closed and still. On land, a crocodile can look awkward for a moment, with its belly low and legs pushed out to the sides. But in the water, it becomes something else entirely. It glides with hardly a ripple. A small movement of the tail is enough to send it forward. That is why river crossings and watering holes matter so much here. They are places where animals meet and where every animal has to pay attention. Crocodiles spend much of their time waiting. They bask in the sun to warm up, then slip back into the water when the heat rises. They eat fish, birds, and any animal that comes too close and gives them a chance. They are strongest in the water, but they also make use of muddy banks, hidden channels, and shaded pools. In the dry season, when water gets scarce, they and many other animals crowd into the same few places. That is when the tension grows. A rhinoceros may come for a drink with the confidence of size and power, but even a giant must stay careful around deep water. What makes the crocodile so effective is its stillness. It does not waste energy. It does not chase often. It watches. It waits. Then, in a flash, it can strike with speed that seems to come out of nowhere. That burst is brief, but it is enough for an animal that has spent most of the day doing nothing at all. In that way, the crocodile fits the savanna river life perfectly. The hot sun, the hard bank, the sudden splash, the long wait in between. Crocodiles also play an important role in these waters. They help keep fish and other prey populations in check, and they clean up by taking weak or dead animals when they can. That may sound harsh, but it helps the river stay healthy. They are also part of the food web that supports birds like vultures and scavengers on the bank. When crocodiles disappear, water systems lose one more old, strong guard. In many places, they are still threatened by habitat loss and by people who fear them. But in protected areas, they continue to hold their place, reminding us that rivers in Africa have their own rulers. And so, when the rhino steps carefully toward the edge, the crocodile is already there in the silence, watching the same water. Two very different animals, one meeting point and one ancient river, making room for both. A long neck rises above the grass, and suddenly the whole horizon seems to stand a little taller. The air is dry and warm here, and every movement feels slow and careful under the bright African sun. Then that easy grace turns into something more serious, because even in a quiet moment, the savanna is always watching. This is where the giraffe lives, out on open plains and scattered acacia country across parts of East Africa. It is the tallest land animal on Earth, built for reaching food that most other grazers can't touch. And when a rhino wanders through the same country, the giraffe is one of the many neighbors that shares its world. Up close, a giraffe is all long lines and soft power. Those legs look thin for such a giant body, but they carry a huge frame with surprising ease. The coat pattern is different on every animal, like a print made by hand with brown patches edged in pale cream. That pattern helps break up the outline of the body in dappled shade, especially under acacia trees. The head sits high on a narrow neck, and on top are those little horn-like knobs called ossicones. They are covered in skin and hair, not bare bone. The eyes are large and dark, giving the animal a calm, watchful look. That neck does the real work. It is not just for show. It lets the giraffe reach tender leaves high in the trees, especially acacias with their thorny branches. A giraffe can stand still for a long time, then stretch and pluck leaves with a dark, flexible tongue that can move around sharp thorns. It eats mostly leaves, buds, and young shoots. You may see it walking with a gentle rocking motion, moving both legs on one side together in a smooth, awkward-looking stride that somehow works perfectly for its size. Even when it seems relaxed, it stays alert. Lions notice giraffes. So do hyenas when a young one is vulnerable. Giraffes are not truly solitary, but they do not live in tight, fixed families the way some animals do. They wander in loose groups that change from day to day. Mothers care for their calves, and those calves stay close when they are young. A female will often leave her baby in a safe spot for a while and return after feeding, trusting the calf to stay quiet and hidden. That may sound risky, but it helps the mother keep her strength while the little one grows fast. Males can be seen sparring by swinging their necks and heads against one another. It looks almost like slow-motion boxing. Those contests help decide who gets to breed. Giraffes also help shape the landscape around them. By eating high leaves, they open up parts of the canopy and keep some trees trimmed. Their movements spread seeds too, and their presence tells you something about the health of the bush. Where giraffes can feed and move safely, the land is usually still in good shape. In some places, they have lost ground because of habitat loss and pressure from people, but protected parks and careful conservation work are helping many populations hold on. There is something peaceful about watching a giraffe feed while the rest of the savanna stays busy below. It feels like one quiet sentence written above a page full of motion. The grass goes quiet for a moment, and then there it is. A sudden burst of speed, all legs and dust and purpose. In the open country, you hear this bird before you really notice it. Its feet drum the ground, its wings catch the air, and the whole scene feels like it has been kicked awake. This is the ostrich, the largest bird on Earth, built for life on the African plains. It roams places like the Serengeti and the wide savannas where there is room to run. And on this land, shared by rhinos, lions, giraffes, and zebras, the ostrich has one very clear talent. It can cover ground faster than almost anything else on two legs. At first glance, an ostrich is hard to forget. The body is big and round, covered in soft feathers that look more like shaggy fur from a distance. The neck is long and bare, the head small and alert, and those long legs are built like stilts made for sprinting. The males are striking in black and white, while females are usually a softer brown and gray, which helps them blend in with dry grass and dust. Those legs are the real story. An ostrich can stride with such long, easy steps that it seems to float over the ground. When it runs, it does not just hurry. It flies low over the earth, leaning forward, neck stretched out, feet flashing in a blur. The two-toed feet are built for speed, and they can also kick with serious force if a threat gets too close. That is no small thing when predators like lions and hyenas share the same open country. Even the feathers serve a purpose. They do not lie flat the way bird feathers do on a duck or a pigeon. They hang loose, helping the bird stay cooler under the hot African sun. On a windy day, an ostrich can look like a bundle of moving brush and silk, all shifting softly above the grass. Ostriches spend much of their time walking and foraging. They eat grasses, seeds, leaves, and whatever other plant bits they can find. They also swallow small stones, which help grind food inside their stomachs. In dry places, They may travel far between feeding spots and water, often moving in loose groups or alongside zebras and gazelles. That makes sense out here. More eyes mean better warning. They are not fussy eaters. They are survivors. In the morning, an ostrich may move slowly through the grass, picking at fresh shoots and pausing now and then to look around. By midday, it often rests in the shade of a bush or just stands with the sun high overhead, using its pale body and loose feathers to handle the heat. And if danger shows up, the quiet bird becomes a blur of motion almost at once. Their eyesight is sharp, and that matters in open country. An ostrich can spot trouble from a long way off. That is one reason it often shares space with other animals that also want early warning. Zebras, gazelles, and even rhinos benefit from extra sets of eyes on the horizon. The ostrich is not a lookout by job title, but that is often the role it plays. Family life is busy and practical. Ostriches do not raise their young alone. A male and a female may pair up, and in some cases, more than one female lays eggs in a shared nest. The nest is just a shallow scrape in the ground, but the eggs are large, tough, and easy to notice if you are standing nearby. The adults take turns guarding the nest and keeping watch. After the chicks hatch, the little ones can walk soon after, which is a good thing in a place with a lot of hungry mouths. Young ostriches are striped and fuzzy, and they depend on the group for protection. Adults gather the chicks under their bodies when danger passes close. If a predator comes in, the whole family can scatter fast and then gather again once the coast is clear. Out here, speed and caution go hand in hand. Ostriches matter because they are part of how the savannah stays active and alive. They spread seeds as they move, and they help tie together the lives of grazing animals and predators who follow them. When open grassland is damaged or fenced off, birds like this can lose the room they need to feed and flee. Hunting and habitat loss have also taken a toll in some places, but protected areas and careful wildlife management have helped ostriches hold on across much of their range. There is something steady about them. They do not ask for attention. They simply keep moving, watching, and surviving. And once you have seen an ostrich race across the plain, it is hard to forget the feeling of that long, wild stride under the African sky. A buffalo herd can change the whole mood of the savannah. One moment, the grass seems calm and open. The next, there is a wall of dark bodies, thick horns, and steady eyes moving together through dust and heat. These are the animals other wildlife watches carefully, because a buffalo never feels small, and a herd never feels careless. African buffalo live in grasslands, open woodlands, and places with water close by. In this episode, they share the plains with rhinoceros, elephants, lions, cheetahs, giraffes, zebras, hyenas, and more. They are one of the great grazing animals of Africa, and they play a big part in shaping the land they feed on. At first glance, a buffalo can seem like a heavy plain animal, but spend a little time with them and the details stand out. The coat is usually dark, with a worn, dusty look that fits the dry season and the mud-caked days after rain. Their build is sturdy and low to the ground, with a deep chest and strong shoulders. And then there are the horns. In adults, the horns sweep out and down, then curve in toward the head, with a thick shield across the forehead. That bony boss gives the face a hard, armored look. It is not hard to see why lions think twice. Buffalo spend much of the day eating. They move slowly, but they are not lazy. They choose their grazing spots with care, cropping short grass and working through open country where they can see danger coming. When the sun gets high, they may rest in the shade or stand in muddy ground to cool off and keep biting insects away. Water matters a lot to them. A herd usually stays close to places where they can drink regularly, and in dry times that can bring them into the same areas used by zebras and giraffes. They also travel as a group, and that is where their strength really shows. Buffalo are social animals, and herd life gives them safety. Calves stay near the center when there is danger, while adults form a living shield around them. If a lion shows up, the herd may bunch together, face outward, and hold its ground. That can surprise people who think grazing animals only run. Buffalo can run fast when they need to, and they can be very dangerous when pushed too far. Their cooperation is simple, but it works. The family side of buffalo life is messy and real. Herds can be large, and they are not always calm and peaceful. Older animals lead by experience more than by show. You may see cows and calves staying close, while young bulls drift on the edge or leave to join bachelor groups. The calls between buffalo are low and rough, like grunts and snorts. A herd does not need fancy signals. It only needs to know when to move, when to stop, and when to stand together. Buffalo matter because they help keep grassland healthy. As they graze, they trim plants and create changes in the land that affect many other animals. Their droppings feed insects and soil life. And because they gather in big groups, they also become part of the food chain for large hunters like lions. In many places, buffalo still face trouble from habitat loss and disease, and they need space to roam. Protected parks and careful management have helped many herds hold on, and that gives the savanna a better chance too. There is something steady about them, not graceful in the way a giraffe is graceful, and not quick in the way a cheetah is quick, but strong in a way the whole plains can feel. When a buffalo herd passes, the grass knows it, and so does everything else around it. The Serengeti Plains stretch out in every direction, broad and open, with grass that can look soft as a green blanket after rain and dusty gold when the dry season settles in. In the cool hours of morning, mist can hang low over the ground, and the air feels fresh and still. By midday, the sun bakes the earth, and every sound seems to carry farther. You hear insects humming, birds calling, and the distant shuffle of hooves. This is the kind of place where a rhinoceros can move from patch to patch of grass, while elephants, lions, cheetahs, zebras, buffalo, gazelles, and even scavengers like hyenas and vultures all make their living here. It is wide country, but every animal still notices every other one. The ground here tells you a lot before you ever see the animal. You notice fresh rooting in the dirt, little torn patches in the grass, and a snort from somewhere low and close to the earth. Then a bristly shape hurries out from the shade, tail held straight like a little flag. This is the warthog, one of the most familiar oddballs of the African savanna. Warthogs live across grasslands and open woodlands, including places like the Serengeti and other parts of East Africa. They are tough little survivors, and they can move from calm grazing to a dead sprint in a heartbeat. Those face tusks and those bony bumps on the cheeks are not just for show. At first glance, the warthog seems built a little backward. The head is large and long, with a blunt snout that points down toward the ground. That snout is made for digging and sniffing, and it works all day like a small shovel, and a good nose rolled into one. The body is lean, with thin legs that look almost too delicate for such a sturdy little animal, but they do the job. And then there is that rough, scruffy coat. It is not sleek or polished. It looks like a brush left out in the sun. The tusks are what people remember. They curve upward from the mouth, and they can look a bit like old ivory hooks. Warthogs use them for defense and for fighting, especially when two males square off. They also have those warts on the face, which are really thick pads of skin. They help protect the face when the animal lunges or tussles. The tail is another clue. When a warthog runs, that tail sticks straight up, almost like a little antenna waving above the grass. It is a funny sight, and once you know it, you can spot a fleeing warthog long before you see the rest of it. Most of the day, a warthog is busy doing simple things that keep it alive. It grazes on grass, but it also roots around for bulbs, roots, and fallen fruit when it can find them. It spends a lot of time with its nose down, moving in short bursts, then stopping to listen. Warthogs are not graceful runners, but they are quick when they need to be. They often dash for a burrow if danger comes near, and they may back into that shelter so the tusks face outward. That is a smart little trick. If a predator comes close, the warthog can turn a burrow into a tiny fortress. They also use mud and dust like tools. A mud wallow helps cool the body and keeps biting insects away. A dust bath does something similar. It is simple, but it works. On hot days, you may see them feeding in the open for a while, and then slipping off into shade or a burrow to rest through the worst heat. Warthogs usually live in family groups, especially females with young. These groups are often relaxed and predictable, which is nice for a savanna animal that has to stay alert. Mothers can be very protective of their piglets, and the youngsters stay close while they learn where to feed and how to keep out of trouble. Males are more likely to spend time on their own or in looser company, and when warthogs meet each other, there is a lot going on in a few quick sounds and body movements. A grunt, a snort, a raised tail, a sudden turn of the head. They may not look chatty to us, but they are always reading the room. Their young are especially vulnerable. A piglet has to learn fast because lions, hyenas, leopards, and even wild dogs will take a chance if one is left behind. That is why warthog mothers stay alert and why those burrows matter so much. A simple hole in the ground can mean the difference between life and death. Warthogs matter because they are part of the everyday engine of the savanna. They help turn over soil when they root, which can affect how seeds and plants spread. They are also an important prey animal for larger hunters. If warthogs were gone, that would change food for predators and alter the way the land is used. They are not usually the species people first think about when they talk conservation, but they still depend on healthy grasslands and safe shelter. In places where habitat is protected, they keep doing what they have done for a long time, grazing, rooting, dodging danger, and making a living in a tough place. There is something charming about a creature that looks so awkward and survives so well. The warthog may not be polished or elegant, but it knows exactly how to make this rough country work. At dusk, the savanna cools, and the warthog slips back into the grass, tail up, tusks ready, perfectly at home. The sky goes quiet first. Then the whole savanna starts to shift its mood. A dark shape circles overhead, riding the warm air with hardly a wing beat. And that can mean only one thing down below. Something has changed on the ground. This is the vulture's world too, and the Great Plains around the Serengeti give it plenty of room to watch. Vultures live across open grasslands and dry country in Africa, where they can spot food from far above. They may not get the glory, but they are one of the cleanup crews that keep the plains healthier. Up close, a vulture can look a little rough around the edges. The head is often bare or thinly feathered, which helps it stay cleaner when it feeds. The body is built for soaring, not speed on the ground. Long wings spread wide like a shallow cross, and the feathers often look dark from a distance, sometimes with pale patches when the light catches them just right. The neck is long and flexible, almost like a crane's, and that helps the bird reach down into a carcass. The beak is strong and hooked, made for tearing into tough skin and sinew. There is nothing soft or fluffy about the job this bird does. And yet, for all that hard-edged look, a vulture is really a sky watcher. It spends much of the day riding hot air currents, drifting in wide circles over the grasslands. From up there, it can notice the smallest clue on the ground, another vulture landing, a jackal trotting with purpose, even the behavior of lions after a kill. That sharp eye is a huge part of how it finds food. Vultures do not usually hunt live animals. They wait for death to do its work, then move in quickly before the meal is gone. It may sound simple, but it takes patience, stamina, and a very good sense of timing. Vultures often feed in groups, and that can turn a quiet feeding site into a noisy scramble. One bird lands, then another, heads bob, wings flare. There is a lot of pushing and sidestepping, all with those awkward-looking necks darting in and out. On the ground, they are not graceful, but in the air, they are masters of efficiency. A vulture can glide for long stretches without seeming to work at all, saving energy while it searches for the next meal. In a place like the savannah, where food can be scattered and unpredictable, that matters. They also have a family life that is more private than people expect. Many vultures pair up and stay with the same mate for years, often nesting in trees, cliffs, or quiet ledges where they are less likely to be disturbed. The chicks grow slowly and need a lot of care. One of the reasons vultures are vulnerable is that they do not bounce back quickly when numbers fall. If a breeding adult is lost, it can take a long time for the population to recover. And that is why vultures matter so much. They help clear away carcasses before they spoil and attract more pests. That can limit the spread of disease and keep the plains a little cleaner for other animals and even for people nearby. Across parts of Africa, some vultures have faced serious pressure from poisoned carcasses, habitat loss, and accidental harm. The good news is that protected areas, better ranger work, and conservation efforts are helping in some places. It is not an easy road, but it is a real one. So when that dark circle appears over the grass, it is not just a bird passing by. It is the savannah telling its own story, one of watching, waiting, and making use of what the land provides. The ground feels different when a giant has passed through. Grass bent low, a line of fresh tracks pressed deep into the dusty earth. Even the air seems to carry a heavier kind of stillness. Then, from behind a screen of scrub, a broad grey shape comes into view, moving slowly but with real purpose. This is the elephant, one of the most familiar giants of the African savanna. It lives across places like the Serengeti, where open plains, scattered trees, and seasonal waterholes give it room to roam. And despite that calm, lumbering look, an elephant can cover a huge stretch of country as it searches for food and water. An elephant is built like no other animal out here. Its skin is thick and wrinkled, like old weathered bark, and often coated in a layer of dust that helps protect it from the sun and biting insects. Those ears are huge, almost like fans, and they help release heat. When they flap, they also signal mood. A relaxed elephant may let them hang loose, while an irritated one spreads them wide and seems to take up the whole skyline. The trunk is the real wonder. It is part nose, part hand, part all-purpose tool. An elephant uses it to drink, to smell, to pick up a single blade of grass, or to tug down leafy branches. It can be gentle enough to lift a newborn, yet strong enough to push over a small tree. That mix of strength and care is what makes elephants so easy to recognize. They seem built for power, but they also move through the world with a surprising amount of touch and feeling. Most of the day, an elephant is eating. A lot. It reaches for grasses, leaves, bark, and fruit, depending on what the season has to offer. In the dry months, it may strip bark from trees or use its tusks and trunk to dig for roots and hidden water. Those tusks can help open up tough branches or clear a path, but they are also the reason elephants have been so heavily hunted by people in the past. You can often tell how an elephant is spending its day by watching where it goes. It may stop often, lower its head, and use the trunk like a careful searchlight. Then it takes a few slow steps and does it again. That steady feeding matters. Elephants need a lot of food, and they spend much of their time turning the savanna into a place of small changes. They break branches, knock down dead wood, and open patches of ground that other animals later use. And here is the part that makes elephants so important. They change the land just by living in it. When they knock over a tree, it may sound rough and destructive, but in many places, that opens space for grass to grow. When they dig for water, other animals may find it too. Birds gather at the puddle. Antelope come in later. Even smaller creatures benefit from the paths elephants make. They are one of the savanna's great shapers. Elephants also live in close family groups. The herd is usually led by an older female, often called the matriarch. She remembers where water can be found, where food grows in dry times, and which paths are safest. That memory can mean everything when the land turns harsh. The younger elephants stay close to mothers, sisters, aunts, and cousins. Calves are protected, guided, and nudged back into line when they wander too far. The sounds they make are just as important as the movements. Elephants rumble to one another, often so low that people barely hear it. They also use touch a great deal. A trunk laid across a back, a gentle nudge, a quick reassurance for a calf that has lost its footing. There is a warmth to the way they live together. It is not rushed, it is patient. And in a place where danger can appear in a flash, that family bond matters. Of course, elephants do not live in peace all the time. Lions may watch calves, hyenas may linger near a carcass, and when water is scarce, tension can rise quickly around the same muddy pool. But full-grown elephants have very few enemies. Their real threats come from people, not predators. Habitat loss, conflict with farms, and poaching have all taken a toll. The good news is that protected parks, ranger patrols, and community conservation efforts have helped some elephant populations hold on. So when you watch an elephant move across the Serengeti, it is not just one animal on the march. It is memory, family, and land, all walking together. And somehow, even in the heat and dust, an elephant leaves the feeling that the savannah still has room for wonder. A strange kind of silence can settle over the grass when danger is near. The birds go quiet, the breeze still moves, but every animal seems to know to keep one eye open. Then, out from the heat-hazed savannah, a lean shape slips through the grass like a thought. That is the African wild dog. These hunters live across parts of eastern and southern Africa, including the plains and open woodland of the Serengeti country. They are built for teamwork, speed, and endurance. One of the best things about them is the way they move together. as if they all share the same plan before a chase even begins. At first glance, wild dogs can surprise people. They do not have the heavy bulk of a lion or the rough strength of a hyena. They look lighter, almost painted by hand, with patches of black, brown, gold, and white on each coat. No two are exactly alike. Their big rounded ears catch sound and help release heat in the African sun. Those ears also give them a look that is both sharp and a little comic until you see them run. A wild dog is built for the hunt from nose to tail. The body is slim, the legs long, and the chest narrow. That shape lets them cover ground fast without burning out too quickly. Their tails are especially easy to spot. Each one has a white tip, like a little flag, waving at the back of the pack. When they are trotting together through open country, those tails help keep the group in sight. It is a small thing, but in a fast chase across grass and dust, small things matter. Their faces are just as striking. The muzzle is long and dark. The eyes can seem very alert, almost intense. When they pause and look around, there is a sense that they are always listening, always reading the land. In the early light, with dust hanging low over the plains, they can look almost elegant. But there is nothing fragile about them. They are tough, clever, and made for hard miles. Wild dogs spend much of their day on the move. They travel in packs, and the pack is the heart of their life. These are social animals, and they rely on one another in a way that feels very close-knit. They hunt together, rest together, and care for one another's young. If one dog spots trouble, the others seem to understand at once. If one is tired, another takes over the lead. That teamwork is one of the reasons they can be so successful. When they hunt, they usually target medium-sized animals, such as impala, gazelles, and young antelope. They do not hide and leap from cover the way a cat might. Instead, they use stamina. They fan out, chase, and keep pressure on their prey until it can no longer keep up. It is a hard way to make a living, and it takes practice, coordination, and a lot of trust. They can also be bold enough to challenge larger scavengers around a fresh kill, and that often brings them into close contact with hyenas and vultures. Their communication is full of short sounds, body posture, and quick movement. A pack may greet one another with excited yips and playful jumps. Those sounds help keep everyone connected. It is a little like watching a family that has learned how to speak without wasting words. When they are ready to travel or hunt, the whole group can seem to shift in the same direction almost at once. Family life is a big part of what makes wild dogs so interesting. Only the dominant pair usually raises pups, but the whole pack helps. Adults regurgitate food for the young. That may sound rough, but for the pups, it means survival. The older dogs guard the den, bring food, and keep watch, while the little ones grow strong enough to follow. Pups stay close at first, tumbling and wrestling in the dirt, then later learning the lessons of the hunt by watching the adults. In a pack, every member matters. This kind of social life is one reason wild dogs need room. They roam over large areas, and they need healthy land with enough prey to keep going. They are also one of Africa's most threatened carnivores, facing trouble from habitat loss, snares, disease, and conflict with people. That is the hard truth. But there is hope too. Protected parks, safer land between reserves, and the work of rangers and researchers are helping some packs hold on. Every healthy pack is a small victory for the savannah. And when you watch them disappear into the grass, you understand why. They are not the loudest animals out there. They do not always make the biggest entrance, but they bring energy, cooperation, and a kind of wild intelligence that keeps the plains alive. If you stand still long enough, you may just catch the white-tailed tips moving away through the grass like tiny signals from the wild itself. The air goes still before trouble starts. Out on the open plain, a big body lowers its head, and the grass seems to part around it. Then comes the warning from far off. Hooves, calls, and the sharp, restless feeling that every animal in the savannah knows well. When a rhinoceros is nearby, everyone pays attention. This is the African savannah's quiet giant, built like a moving boulder and armed with a horn that can make even bold animals think twice. The rhinoceros lives across parts of the Serengeti and other open grasslands and woodlands where there is enough food, shade, and space to roam. It is one of the most threatened large animals in Africa, and that alone makes every sighting matter. Up close, a rhino does not look graceful. It looks solid, heavy, almost prehistoric. The skin is thick and gray, folded in loose plates that catch the light like old armor. But that skin is not hard, like stone. It can still be scratched and bothered by insects, which is why rhinos often visit mud wallows. The mud works like sunscreen, bug repellent, and a cooling coat all at once. Those ears are worth watching. They swivel like small radar dishes, always listening. The eyes are tiny for such a huge animal, but the nose does a lot of the work. A rhino can smell danger, food, and another rhino from a surprising distance. And then there is the horn. It grows from the nose, made of keratin, the same basic material as your fingernails, but shaped into a weapon and a tool. Rhinos use it to push aside branches, test the ground, and defend themselves when they have to. It is not a decoration. It is a survival tool. Despite their size, rhinos are not fast for long stretches, but they can surprise you with a sudden burst of speed. Most of the time, they move with that steady, rolling walk that seems almost calm. They crop grass with their wide lips if they are a grass-eating rhino, or browse on leaves and twigs if they are one of the leaf eaters. Either way, they spend a lot of time feeding, because a body this large needs a lot of fuel. And yet, even with all that power, a rhino does not live in peace. It must watch for lions when it is young or weak. It must give way to elephants at crowded waterholes. It may be shadowed by hyenas, jackals, or vultures, hoping to find trouble after the fact. Most healthy adult rhinos are hard to bring down, but the young, the old, and the injured are another story. In the savannah, nothing wastes energy on a fair fight if an easier meal might appear. One of the most interesting things about rhinos is how alone they often seem. They are not highly social in the way elephants are. Many spend much of their time by themselves, coming together mainly to mate or when a mother is raising a calf. A mother rhino is deeply protective. Her calf stays close, following her like a shadow, learning where to feed, where to drink, and where to stand when danger comes near. She will place herself between the youngster and a threat without hesitation. Communication happens in small, practical ways: scent marks, snorts, grunts, body posture. A lowered head can mean move, while a relaxed stance says the opposite. Rhinos also use dung piles, called middens, almost like signposts. These spots tell other rhinos who pass through, who is ready to breed, and who owns the area. It sounds plain, but in the savannah, information can mean everything. Rhinos matter because they shape the land around them. As they feed and move, they open paths through grass and brush. Their wallows become little gathering places for birds, insects, and smaller animals that come to use the mud and moisture. When a large grazer or browser like this disappears, the whole rhythm of the place can shift. The good news is that protected parks, skilled rangers, and strong anti-poaching work have helped some rhino populations hold on and even recover in places. Still, the pressure remains high, and their future depends on steady protection. There is something deeply moving about standing in the same country as a rhino. It feels like meeting a survivor from another time, one that still belongs fully to today. Now the evening light slips lower, and the savannah begins to breathe again. The rhino lifts its head. The danger has not vanished, but for this moment, the old giant is still here, still standing its ground under the African sky. As the light softens over the Serengeti and the acacia country grows quiet again, the day feels like it is holding its breath. Dust settles on the grass. Birds tuck themselves into the branches. Somewhere out in the plain, a rhinoceros stands like a dark hill against the evening glow, and the rest of the animals keep their distance, each one reading the land in its own way. We have walked through open plains, thorny savanna, and the waterholes that hold everyone together. We have watched elephant, lion, cheetah, giraffe, zebra, buffalo, hyena, warthog, wild dog, ostrich, gazelle, hippo, crocodile, jackal, and vulture all share the same country, each one shaped by the same sun and the same need to eat, drink, and survive. The rhinoceros sits at the heart of that story, steady and old, reminding us that even the biggest animals depend on space, safety, and patience. Places like this do not stay wild by accident. They survive because parks are protected, rangers do hard work, and people care enough to keep asking questions and paying attention. And yes, there is still danger here for rhinos, especially from poaching and shrinking habitat. But there is also hope, and that matters. If you enjoyed this journey across the savannah, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment telling us which animal stayed with you the most. Share the episode with a friend who loves the outdoors too. And as the stars come out over Africa, remember this: the wild goes on, quietly and bravely, long after we stop watching.